Hey guys, it's Christine. Welcome back to the channel. This week I'm going to be talking about Dungeon Crawler Carl by Matt Dinniman. I didn't really know that much about the book before reading it. I knew kind of about it just through, seeing it in bookstores and whatever. I'd heard the title. I didn't really know what it was about, and I was resistant to reading it. I think the reason is that um, I might piss off some people by saying this, but uh, there's to explain why I resisted reading the book for so long, you kind of have to know a little bit about me in that I really hate nerd culture. I don't like I like nerdy things, but I don't like the fandoms that those things have created. I love Star Wars, but I don't really like Star Wars fans. I especially don't like the ones that bully people off the internet. Um, I read comic books, but I don't like people that just blindly think everything Marvel puts out is good because let's be honest, a lot of it is trash. And, so I like a lot of nerdy things, but I really don't like that sort of culture. Um, so I resisted reading this one for a long time. And part of the reason for that, too, is because everybody had raved and raved and raved about Ready Player One by Ernest Cline, and I hated that book so much. All it was pop culture references and very little story. And what story that was there was at times racist and misogynistic, and I really hated that book so much. And when you look at its rating on Goodreads, it still has over 4 stars on average. I'm not sure exactly what it is, but it's got a really high rating on Goodreads. And a lot of people love Ready Player One, and I hated it so much. So I thought, well, is Dungeon Crawler Carl going to be more of the same? Is it going to be pop culture references and winks at the audience, or is it going to have some substance to it? um and when I say substance, I don't mean it has to be serious or like, really heavy kind of material. I wanted it for a summer read. I wanted something light and fun. And part of my own, I don't want to become so cynical that I won't enjoy new things. So while I dislike nerd culture a lot, I also don't want to not give things a try just because they fall into that umbrella term of nerdy. So I thought, well, okay, it was on sale, and I haven't read a series in a really long time. Um, because I generally tend to not enjoy a series. Like, if I think, I couldn't tell you what the last series I read was, but I know that, like, I read the entire Wheel of Time, and, like, come on, that could have been a trilogy. Like, it just, it's too much. There's too much world. There's too many characters. I guess probably A Song of Ice and Fire is the last series I read, and I'm not done because George R. R. Martin is not done writing it. Um, so I tend to not read a lot of series, but that's not to say that I dislike all of them. I mean, I have read the Fool's books by Robin Hobb. I really enjoyed those, and they don't count as a trilogy. Like, there's more than 3 of them. So I guess, like, yeah, there are series that I enjoy, but it's just I tend to prefer either a trilogy or a standalone. I like a story that has an ending. Um, and with a series, it's like, is there going to be an ending? And if it goes on for so long, is it going to be satisfactory? That was another problem I had with The Wheel of Time. I didn't find the ending satisfactory. And I felt like, man, I sunk how many hours into reading 14, I think, books, and then I just felt like it didn't really stick the landing. So all that to say, a series is not something that I generally will gravitate towards, but I try not to discount them entirely because I have enjoyed series in the past. So, having said all that, I decided to read it because, like I said, it was on sale, and I thought, well, okay, let's give it a go. Let's try not to be too cynical. Give it a fair shot and see what you think. So the story is that aliens have killed everybody on Earth. Well, not everybody. Anybody who was indoors. All the buildings have been flattened, so you've all been squished, basically. And anybody who is left over, who is outside, they have the option to stay where they are and try to survive on Earth without any help. Or there are entrances to the dungeon and take place in an intergalactic game show where it's a fight to the death, essentially. So is it the most original story? No. I mean, Hunger Games has done that, Battle Royale has done that, but it is different enough, in that it's aliens and it's all being televised. I think the tagline of the book is "The end of the world will be televised." So, it's got a real fun bent to it. I have never read lit RPG before. I'm completely new to the genre. I thought it was all right, I think that's something you're either really going to really like or really not like. So our hero, Carl, goes into one of these doorways with his ex-girlfriend's show cat, Princess Donut, and they become dungeon crawlers. So it's really fun. And it felt, I wasn't sure, just from the title, I thought maybe it would be more D&D-ish, but it's actually more video game-ish. Every time they do something, it'll say new achievement unlocked, and then it'll have a little write-up from the point of the computer or the AI or whatever, whoever's running the show, essentially. And, when they're fighting other creatures that are in the dungeon with them, they'll have health bars, and they'll drop loot, and there'll be loot crates, and that kind of thing. So I like that. It felt very much like it had a real Borderlands feel to it. Whenever they fight a boss, it says a banner will come up with the name of the boss and a little humorous sort of tagline about them. That felt very Borderlands to me. So I feel like whether you enjoy the story or not is going to very much depend on if you're on board with that style of storytelling. I'm okay with it. But I wouldn't say I love it either. It can sort of feel like it's slowing things down. It's okay, now we have to go through what loot they dropped and what he's going to put in his inventory. And that kind of got a little repetitive, but it tries to offset the repetitiveness with humor, but the humor is very juvenile also. So again, it really, I heard somebody say, it feels like Family Guy. And I can sort of see that. I hate Family Guy. Sorry. I don't like Family Guy. So I would say it's better than Family Guy, but I can see what they're saying. The humor is when the story starts, Carl is outside trying to catch his ex-girlfriend's cat who has gotten loose. And so he has on Crocs that don't fit him or whatever. So eventually he has no shoes in the dungeon, and he gets achievements for foot fetish kind of stuff. It's very silly, it's very corny, but I will say I think there is enough depth of character and enough goes on that it sort of offsets the corniness and the silliness. The silliness is definitely there. I feel like that's its big selling point, but it's also leaving room for complexity with the characters, because Princess Donut, through a potion or something, she gets the ability to talk. So you've got a talking cat and a guy. Princess Donut and Carl are different enough that it feels like, an odd couple kind of comedy, but also the flip side of that is that you get their different strengths working off of each other in how to solve these problems, because a lot of the problems do feel like puzzles more than just fights, like battles. One of the characters in it who's kind of uh, he's sort of like a game guide for them. He says, like, when you're going into a boss battle, there's always going to be clues. So make sure you're looking for the clues. I really liked that. I thought that was way more fun than just fight, 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 fight. I really like that aspect of it being more like a puzzle to solve. And yes, there's violence and it is pretty brutal. But it's not without them trying to work around certain things. So I'm trying not to give too much away, but it's, it's silly, it's fun. There were a couple of times where I felt like it crossed a line a little bit for me. There's a couple of characters here. One of them is the first boss that they fight, who is grotesquely overweight. And then one is a talk show host who is described as being grotesquely overweight. And it's like, okay, enough of that now, please. And we don't need to go into quite so much detail describing the size of her boobs. Like, that felt very juvenile and like it was crossing a line. But that's, the other characters are good. I do hope in the future there might be a female character who's not described as being grotesque. That would really help me out with the way that it's being written. But again, like, that's not enough for me to dislike the book. It made me dislike those scenes. But I don't want to say too much, but there's something about the first boss battle with the grotesquely overweight woman. She's speaking Spanish, and when I went to Google Translate on my computer later after reading that chapter to see what she was actually saying, it really gave a lot of depth to that scene, and there's more going on than we're aware of. Because it's a series, you're dealing with world building, and I'm sure that stuff is going to be addressed later, but I also don't like the idea that I have to wait until book 5 before we figure out why things are this way. Like, no, come on. I don't want to be held hostage in that way. You know what I mean? But overall, I did really enjoy it. Like I said, I've never read anything out of the lit RPG genre before. I don't know that it is a genre that I'm going to be reading much of, but I think I liked this book enough that I would pick up book 2 and see where it goes. My worry about it, and as with any series like this, is it going to get stale? I hope not. Okay, Pip. I feel like there's a difference between an abrupt ending and a cliffhanger. This one should have been a cliffhanger, and it just sort of felt like it ended abruptly. Like there wasn't really any way to wrap it up for this book, knowing full well there's going to be more to the story. So that's not great, but it still felt enjoyable. It still is something that I am going to continue with for now. As I said, my worry is that with any series, you run the risk of things becoming stale. So I hope that doesn't happen, and I reserve the right to stop at any time. But I think I will. I think I will continue with the next book at some point. One other thing that I have heard about this book is that it's so much better on audiobook. And while that may be true, I'm not doing that. So stop trying to sell me on an audiobook. I don't enjoy audiobooks. I prefer to read a story and put the inflections where I think they should go instead of being acted at. If I want to be acted at, I'll go watch a TV show. I'll go see a play. I'll watch a movie. But for reading, for me, I like to be the one in control of how things should sound or be said or whatever. So anyway, I did enjoy it. I thought it was a good, it's a fun read. I think on Goodreads, I gave it a 4, but that's because Goodreads doesn't allow half stars. On Fable, I gave it a 3.75 because it's more than a 3, maybe not as much as a 4. So anyway, that's my review for Dungeon Crawler Carl by Matt Dinniman. I will be continuing with the series, but I think I'll spread them out so as to avoid any kind of fatigue, dungeon fatigue, if you will. All right, that's it for me this week. Bye.